When a younger man's heart belongs to an older woman, 11 words slip out because truth has a way of breaking through every wall he built around himself. He doesn't plan to say them, he doesn't rehearse them. They emerge because something inside him recognizes that he is standing in front of someone who changes the way he sees himself, and that realization shakes him awake. People love to pretend that attraction is random, that it's unpredictable, that it's rooted in shallow impulses. But when a younger man finds himself drawn to a woman older than him, there is nothing random about it. It is precision. It is alignment. It is the recognition of depth in a world full of noise and cheap performances. He feels something he hasn't felt before, not adrenaline, not fantasy, not infatuation, but clarity. And clarity is rare. Clarity disrupts the comfortable illusions he lived inside. Clarity forces him to confront the truth of who he is and who he wants to become. A younger man is not pulled toward an older woman because she gives him excitement. He is pulled toward her because she gives him something far more valuable: order. She has lived long enough to know the cost of emotional chaos. She has suffered, rebuilt, sharpened, and refined herself. She carries the dignity of someone who has survived storms. And that is magnetic in a way that youth can never imitate. When he stands in front of her, he feels the weight of her experience, not as pressure, but as guidance. She steadies the parts of him that were unstable. She slows down the parts of him that were reckless. She strengthens the parts of him that were insecure. And he becomes aware, painfully aware, that this is the presence he never knew he needed. Most younger men spend years being praised for their potential, but rarely does someone truly see their potential. She does. She sees past his bravado, past his hesitation, past his uncertainty. She sees the man inside the boy, and this is what awakens him. Not her age, not her beauty, not her confidence, but the way she looks at him like he is capable of becoming something greater than the version of himself he has been pretending to be. That is the moment devotion begins. A man becomes loyal not when he is impressed, but when he is understood. And understanding is the language she speaks fluently. He becomes more disciplined around her. Not because she demands it, but because he senses he cannot approach her with laziness or half effort. Her presence forces him to level up. Her standards call him to rise. Her steadiness challenges him to confront the disorder inside his mind. And though this process is uncomfortable, it is transformative. Growth is always preceded by discomfort. He begins to realize that she is not just someone he is attracted to, she is someone who changes the direction of his internal compass. And then it happens. Those 11 words slip out. They escape from a depth inside him he didn't know how to articulate before. They sound simple, but they carry the weight of his transformation. They are the words of a man who finally recognizes the value of what stands in front of him. The world might laugh, judge, critique, or misunderstand, but he doesn't care anymore. His feelings are no longer rooted in impulse. They're rooted in truth, and truth demands expression. Those 11 words are not a confession of romantic desperation. They are a declaration of clarity, the clarity that she has awakened something dormant inside him. She has made him confront his chaos. She has made him examine his habits. She has made him realize that the life he was living before her was only a fraction of what he is capable of. He becomes more intentional with his choices, more careful with his actions, more honest with his emotions. A man who once wandered aimlessly now feels anchored, not controlled anchored. The strength of an older woman does not trap him, it frees him. It frees him from the weak versions of himself he used to settle for. It frees him from the expectations of the world. It frees him from the temporary comforts that distracted him from becoming who he was meant to be. He understands now that age is not the barrier the world claims it to be. Immaturity is. And he feels himself shedding that immaturity piece by piece, simply by being in her presence. When a younger man's heart belongs to an older woman, it is not a rebellion against society, it is a rebellion against the shallow standards he once lived by. It is the moment he chooses depth over distraction, substance over superficiality, truth over ego. And those 11 words that slip out are not just spoken to her, they are spoken to himself. They mark the beginning of his transformation. They mark the moment he stops running from responsibility and steps into the discipline that creates real meaning. And once he reaches that point, judgments don't matter, gossip doesn't matter, stereotypes don't matter. The only thing that matters is the truth he cannot unsee anymore. She brings out the man he was always capable of becoming. A younger man is not drawn to an older woman because of age, but because she represents the structure, depth, and stability his soul is starving for. He may not articulate it. He may not even fully understand it, but something in him gravitates toward the woman who carries herself with the quiet certainty that only life, loss, rebuilding, and self-respect can teach. He is not pulled by the number of years she has lived, but by the weight of those years, the lessons they forged, the wisdom they carved into her character, the way she walks into a room with the calm of someone who doesn't need chaos to feel alive. In a world full of noise, he is drawn to her silence. In a world full of pretending, he is drawn to her authenticity. In a world full of temporary connections, he is drawn to her depth. That draw is not an accident, it is instinct. It is the soul recognizing a kind of emotional leadership that his life has been missing. A younger man has spent years being told to be strong while never being shown how. He is expected to be confident without guidance, stable without structure, mature without mentorship. He learns to mask confusion with bravado, insecurity with detachment, and uncertainty with loudness. But when he meets an older woman, those masks fall apart, not because she demands it, but because her presence makes pretending unnecessary. She sees him, not the performance. She reads him, not the persona. She understands the chaos he hides behind jokes, the tenderness he is afraid to express, the potential he has never been encouraged to activate. She doesn't feed his ego, she strengthens his character. And that shift is something he has been craving without knowing its name. Her strength doesn't overwhelm him, it steadies him. Her boundaries don't intimidate him, they straighten him. Her experience doesn't make him feel small, it reminds him of the man he could become if he chooses discipline over impulse. That is why he is drawn to her. Because she represents the version of himself he hopes to grow into, not the version he is trying to escape. She challenges him in a way younger women rarely do, not through criticism, but through example. Her emotional maturity exposes his immaturity. Her composure reveals his impulsiveness. Her clarity magnifies his confusion. And instead of running from that, he leans into it. Because deep down, every man wants to become stronger, wiser, more grounded, and she becomes the mirror that reflects who he could be. A younger man does not worship an older woman, he respects her. Respect is the real magnetism. Respect creates a level of devotion that lust alone can never touch. He respects the battles she fought long before he ever met her. He respects the standards she holds without apology. He respects the way she knows exactly what she wants and refuses to shrink herself for anyone. That level of self-possession is rare in his world. He is used to people diluting themselves to be liked, bending themselves to be chosen, performing versions of themselves to fit in. But she stands in her truth without needing approval. And that inspires him more than any external beauty ever could. Her stability is not boring, it is transformative. Her emotional discipline gives him a roadmap he never had. She doesn't react from insecurity, doesn't create drama for attention, doesn't manipulate to feel in control. She communicates with honesty, listens with presence, and moves with intention. Being around her teaches him what emotional regulation actually looks like. He starts to speak more carefully, think more deeply, behave more responsibly. He stops chasing validation and starts chasing growth. He stops seeking excitement and starts seeking purpose. She doesn't force this change, she inspires it, simply by being who she is. And the truth is, a younger man is often tired of superficial interactions, tired of unstable connections, tired of inconsistent affection. He craves someone who is not guessing their way through life, someone who has direction, perspective, and emotional weight. Someone who knows how to love without drowning him and support him without losing herself. An older woman embodies all of that. She loves with clarity, she loves with standards, she loves with maturity. And he feels safer in that kind of love than he has ever felt in the chaos of youthful confusion. People misunderstand this dynamic. They assume he wants something easy, but in reality, he chooses what is harder but healthier. Loving an older woman forces him to grow, to communicate better, to act with intention, to take responsibility for his emotions. It pushes him out of the boyhood habits he once relied on. He becomes more patient, more focused, more grounded. Being with her requires a level of seriousness that forces him to rise, and he likes the man he is becoming around her. The draw is not physical, it is psychological, it is spiritual. Her age is irrelevant. Her energy is everything. She carries a life he admires, a mindset he respects, and a depth he cannot find in those who are still figuring themselves out. And when he realizes that, something in him settles. The restless searching stops. The constant comparing stops. The fear of not being enough fades. Because he finally feels seen, guided, supported, and challenged in the same breath. A younger man is not drawn to an older woman because she is older. He is drawn to her because she is whole. And wholeness is the rarest and most irresistible force in the world. His attraction evolves into devotion the moment he realizes she sees his potential more clearly than he sees it himself. That moment is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not come with fireworks or speeches or grand announcements. It is quiet, so quiet that even he doesn't fully notice it at first. But something in him shifts. Something rearranges. Something wakes up. Because when a man realizes that a woman not only understands who he is, but sees who he could become, his entire relationship with her changes. Attraction is about the present. Devotion is about the future. And a woman who sees a man's future before he does becomes the catalyst that alters the direction of his life. Most men walk through the world with potential they don't know how to access. They carry ambition without structure, dreams without discipline, and desire without direction. They want to rise, but they lack guidance. They want to grow, but they lack clarity. They want to become more, but they don't know what more truly looks like. Then she appears not as a savior, not as a critic, not as someone demanding he change, but as someone who can read him with startling precision. She sees the strength he hides behind self-doubt. She sees the intelligence he downplays out of fear of failure. She sees the leadership he hasn't learned to trust yet. She sees the softness he protects behind sarcasm or distance. She sees all of it, the unpolished brilliance, the buried discipline, the dormant courage, and she treats it as something real long before he does. This does something inside him. It interrupts his old patterns. It challenges the excuses he once relied on. It forces him to confront the truth that he is capable of far more than the life he has been settling for. And this is where devotion begins. Not devotion to her, but devotion to his own growth, a growth she is the first person to genuinely believe in. When a woman sees a man's potential with clarity, she gives him something no one else has given him. A mirror that reflects the man he could be, not the man he fears he is. A man becomes loyal when he feels understood, but he becomes devoted when he feels elevated. She elevates him simply by recognizing the greatness he carries but has not yet developed. And because she sees it, he begins to see it. Her belief in him is not flattery. It is not blind encouragement. It is grounded in what she observes, his work ethic, his compassion, his curiosity, his hunger to improve. She doesn't overpraise him. She doesn't coddle him. She tells him the truth. Who he is now is not the limit of who he can become. And that truth is what ignites him. He starts showing up differently. He becomes more intentional, more disciplined, more consistent. He raises his standards without being asked. He becomes a man who acts, not a man who waits. He stops wasting time on things that drain him and starts investing energy into habits that strengthen him. Why? Because someone finally expects more from him, not in a controlling way, but in an inspiring one. She raises the bar simply by seeing the higher version of him. And he rises because he wants to match the man she sees. In that process, something profound happens. He stops performing and starts transforming. He no longer wants to impress her with temporary gestures. He wants to become the man she believes he can be, consistently, sustainably, authentically. Her presence naturally pulls him out of his immaturity. Not because she demands growth, but because she embodies it. Her emotional steadiness models responsibility. Her clarity models honesty. Her standards model self-respect. Being around her teaches him the language of maturity without needing a lecture. She doesn't fix him, she inspires him to fix himself. She doesn't push him, she awakens him. She doesn't mold him, she mirrors him back to himself. And he realizes that the version of him she sees, the stronger, wiser, more focused, more disciplined version, is not a fantasy. It is possible. More than possible, it is necessary. That realization becomes the turning point. It is no longer about attraction. Attraction is light, casual, fleeting. Devotion is heavy, grounded, enduring. Attraction is about wanting her. Devotion is about wanting to become better with her. Attraction says, I like you. Devotion says, you make me want to rise. And rising is what he begins to do. He becomes more protective of his time, more intentional with his words, more accountable for his actions. He becomes the kind of man who builds rather than drifts. He starts caring about his purpose, his health, his habits, his dreams. Not for her approval, but because she has shown him a version of himself that he doesn't want to lose. The more he grows, the more he sees that she was right about him, that he had potential buried under laziness, fear, and self-doubt, that he was stronger than the excuses he once clung to, that he was capable of greatness long before he dared to believe it. This is the moment his devotion seals itself, when he realizes the man he is becoming around her is the man he always wanted to be. Her belief didn't change him, it unlocked him. Her vision didn't shape him, it revealed him. Her presence didn't rescue him, it awakened him. His attraction began with admiration. His devotion begins with transformation. And the woman who sees his potential before he does becomes the turning point of his life, the one who makes him finally step into the man he was meant to be. Emotional maturity becomes the gravitational force that pulls him out of his confusion and pushes him into becoming a disciplined, grounded man. It is not a force he can resist, nor one he immediately recognizes, but it shapes him quietly, inevitably, and profoundly. Confusion has been his constant companion, the restless energy of uncertainty, the anxiety of indecision, the unspoken fear that he is not enough. He drifts from one impulse to another, chasing fleeting excitement, mimicking confidence he doesn't feel, masking vulnerability with arrogance. But when he encounters emotional maturity in a woman, not performative, not pretentious, but real, lived, and steady, something in him recalibrates. It is like gravity itself has returned to his orbit, pulling him away from the chaotic whirlpool of distraction and setting him on a trajectory he never dared to consider before. This maturity is not about age. It is not about experience alone. It is about the ability to confront reality without panic, to navigate emotions without manipulation, to act with integrity regardless of desire, and to demand the same in return. A younger man has often existed in a world where signals are muddled, where intentions are disguised, where feelings are weaponized rather than understood. He has learned to react rather than reflect, to act from fear rather than purpose, to drift without direction. But in her presence, these patterns begin to dissolve. Her steadiness is a mirror he cannot ignore. Her clarity exposes the aimlessness he has accepted as normal. Her calm authority confronts his impulsivity. And for the first time, he feels the possibility of becoming a man who moves through life intentionally, not reactively. Emotional maturity teaches him discipline without coercion. He begins to understand that impulsive decisions have consequences, that inconsistency undermines potential, that shortcuts never yield real progress. The pull he feels is not fear, not pressure, not obligation. It is respect. Respect for her composure, respect for her self-possession, respect for the standard she embodies simply by being herself. And in that respect, he finds motivation. Motivation that is quieter, deeper, and more enduring than any superficial desire he has experienced. It is the kind of motivation that forces him to examine his habits, his routines, his values, and his priorities. It forces him to ask hard questions. Am I living deliberately? Am I accountable to myself? Am I pursuing the man I claim I want to become, or merely pretending to grow while avoiding responsibility? Her emotional maturity also provides a framework for growth. She models the boundaries that protect integrity, the patience that cultivates wisdom, and the focus that produces results. He sees her handle difficulty without drama, confront challenges without complaint, and maintain consistency without rigidity. And he begins to internalize these lessons, not consciously at first, but through observation, imitation, and absorption. The force she exerts is gravitational because it is both subtle and relentless. Like the pull of a planet on a satellite, it cannot be ignored. It shapes the path of his life, whether he acknowledges it or not. Around her, he discovers the power of groundedness. He experiences the calm that comes from stability, the confidence that comes from self-knowledge, the strength that comes from emotional regulation. And as he experiences these qualities externally, he starts to cultivate them internally. He wakes up earlier, focuses more intently, thinks more strategically, and acts more deliberately. He begins to understand that being a man is not about dominance, display, or conquest. It is about responsibility, consistency, and authenticity. And he realizes that these are qualities she not only values, but expects, not as punishment, but as the natural order of engagement with someone of her caliber. Emotional maturity also reshapes his relationships with others. He stops seeking validation from those who cannot offer it. He stops tolerating chaos from those who thrive on instability. He stops excusing behaviors that undermine his growth. The gravitational force she exerts not only pulls him towards self-discipline, but also pushes away everything that is misaligned with his emerging identity. This is why a younger man who encounters a truly mature woman changes so profoundly. He is not coerced, he is awakened. He is not corrected, he is oriented. He is not restrained, he is liberated to live as the man he was capable of being all along. And as he aligns with her influence, the change becomes visible. He carries himself differently. He speaks differently. He thinks differently. His actions reflect deliberate thought. His words reflect integrity, and his presence radiates stability. He no longer drifts through life reacting to circumstance. He navigates life with intention. He begins to understand that discipline is not punishment, but liberation. That accountability is not limitation, but empowerment. That groundedness is not restriction, but clarity. Ultimately, emotional maturity is the force that converts attraction into devotion, chaos into focus, and potential into reality. She does not demand his transformation, she embodies it. She does not lecture him, she demonstrates it. And in response, he is drawn, compelled, and motivated to rise to a standard he had never imagined for himself. He learns that true strength comes from the mastery of emotions, that real power comes from self-control, and that lasting influence comes from consistency and presence. He realizes that a woman of emotional maturity is not simply a partner, she is a guide, a mirror, and a challenge. She does not create dependency, she fosters growth. She does not provide answers, she illuminates the path. And as he rises to meet the gravitational pull of her stability, he transforms into the disciplined, grounded man he was always capable of being, finally living in alignment with the potential she saw long before he did. When the truth hits him, 11 words slip out, not as romance, but as acknowledgement that she has awakened the direction he never had before. That moment is sudden and undeniable. Yet it is the culmination of every subtle realization, every quiet observation, every unspoken lesson he has absorbed in her presence. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive with fireworks or declarations. It comes as clarity, the piercing awareness that his life, once scattered, uncertain, and wandering, now has a trajectory that feels inevitable and purposeful. These words are not about charm, seduction, or performance. They are about recognition of the power she has had over his growth, simply by existing as a person of presence, wisdom, and integrity. They emerge because he can no longer deny the truth. She has altered him at the core. A younger man often drifts through life as if he is floating on a river with no map, no current, and no awareness of the shore. He reacts to circumstance rather than shaping it, chases momentary excitement rather than long-term fulfillment, and mistakes impulse for instinct. But she changes that. Her steadiness, her insight, and her emotional gravity begin to pull him toward a path he never imagined for himself. He begins to notice patterns he ignored, habits he dismissed, and opportunities he overlooked. Her presence becomes a mirror that reflects his potential, and her reality forces him to confront his previous complacency. And when that confrontation crystallizes into understanding, the truth hits him, a truth that cannot be contained, disguised, or delayed. The 11 words that slip out are the verbal manifestation of this internal shift. They are not rehearsed, not calculated, not designed to impress. They come from a place deeper than ego or desire. They are the raw articulation of an awakening. Because when someone finally recognizes the role another person has played in their personal evolution, it is impossible to remain silent. These words are both confession and tribute. They admit vulnerability without begging for reassurance. They acknowledge guidance without diminishing independence. They express gratitude without dependence. And in that subtle, undeniable moment, he realizes that he is not the same man he was before she entered his life. Her influence has been transformative precisely because it was never overt. She did not demand his change, she inspired it. She did not scold him into awareness, she embodied it. She did not lecture him on potential, she demonstrated it. Every action she took, every decision she made, every boundary she set quietly instructed him in discipline, maturity, and self-respect. And because of this, when the truth hits him, he cannot help but speak it. He does not need to explain, defend, or justify. The words are not romantic gestures, they are acknowledgements of growth, responsibility, and awakening. Those 11 words are also a marker of responsibility finally embraced. A younger man who speaks them has recognized that he is accountable for himself and his life in a way he never was before. He understands that transformation does not come from external force, it comes from internal alignment, often sparked by someone who models the life he secretly wants. And that alignment, once realized, demands articulation. It demands acknowledgement. It demands honesty. These words are the bridge between the man he was and the man he is becoming. An announcement to himself as much as to her that his life now has direction, meaning, and purpose. They are also words of respect, not flattery, not exaggeration, not idealization. Respect does not inflate, it illuminates. These words illuminate the truth that her influence is profound, deliberate, and transformative. They are a recognition of her ability to awaken potential without controlling it, to inspire growth without coercion, to guide without imposing. And in acknowledging this, he acknowledges himself, the man capable of rising to meet the challenge she represents, the man capable of responsibility, the man capable of deliberate, disciplined living. This moment also signifies the crossing from attraction to devotion. Attraction can exist in isolation, it can be fleeting, superficial, and uncommitted. But when truth hits, and those 11 words are spoken, devotion begins. He is no longer merely drawn to her energy, her wisdom, or her presence. He is committed to rising into the man that presence has revealed he can be. He recognizes that she has given him a gift that cannot be reciprocated superficially: clarity, structure, and awakening. His words are the first articulation of that understanding, a declaration that he is stepping into accountability, self-mastery, and intentionality. Moreover, the timing of these words is crucial. They do not come at the start, when infatuation can masquerade as understanding. They do not come in haste, before reflection has deepened comprehension. They come precisely when the accumulated lessons, the observed behaviors, and the internalized principles coalesce into insight. When he finally sees the shape of his life transformed by her influence, the words emerge organically. They cannot be suppressed because they are the acknowledgement of a truth too fundamental to ignore. She has awakened his potential, guided his growth, and pulled him toward a manhood he could not have reached alone. And so, those 11 words, simple yet profound, stand as a marker of transformation. They are not expressions of romance or desire, but of realization. They are the crystallization of all that he has learned, absorbed, and internalized. They signal the beginning of a new chapter, the emergence of a disciplined, grounded, and awakened self. They acknowledge that his trajectory has shifted irreversibly because of her, and they declare that he is finally ready to step into the responsibility, clarity, and purpose that her presence has ignited. In the end, when the truth hits him and those 11 words slip out, he is no longer the man who wandered aimlessly, confused and unformed. He is a man aware of his path, committed to his growth, and awakened to the potential that she saw long before he could see it himself. Those words are not a love letter. They are a declaration of transformation, an acknowledgement of awakening, and a testament to the enduring power of clarity, presence, and emotional influence.